Sairam, Sri Sai Satcharitra Chapter 2. Object of writing the work, incapacity and boldness in undertaking. Hot discussion confirming the significant and prophetic title of Hemad Panth, Necessity of a Guru. In the last chapter, the author mentioned in original Marathi book that he would state the reason that led him to undertake the work and about the person qualified to read the same and such other points. Now, in this chapter, he starts to tell the same. Object of writing the work. In the first chapter, I described Saibaba's miracle of checking and destroying the cholera epidemic by grinding wheat and throwing the flour on the outskirts of the village. I heard other miracles of Sai Baba to my great delight, and delight burst forth into poetic work. I also thought that the description of these miracles of Sai Baba would be interesting and instructive to his devotees and would remove their sins. So I began to write the sacred life and teachings of Sai Baba. The life of saint is neither logical nor dialectical. It shows us true and great path, incapacity and boldness in undertaking the work. Hemad Pant thought that he was not a fit person to undertake the work. He said, "When I do not know the life of my intimate friend, nor do I know my own mind, then how can I write the life of a saint and describe the nature of incarnation, which even Vedas were unable to do so? One must be a saint himself before he could know other saints, otherwise how can I describe their glory? To write the life of a saint is most difficult, though one may as well be able to measure the depth of water of the seas, seven seas, or enclose the sky with cloth trappings. I knew that this was the most venturous undertaking which might expose me to ridicule. I therefore invoked Sai Baba's grace." The premier poet, saint of Maharashtra, Sri Jnaneshwar Maharaj, has stated that the Lord loves those who write the life of saints, and the saints also have their own peculiar method of assigning the service which the devotees long for. The saints inspire the work of a devotee becomes only an indirect cause or an instrument of to achieve the end. For instance, in 1700 Shaka year, the poet Mahipati aspired to write the life of saints. The saints inspired him and got the work done. So also in 1800 Shaka year, Das Ganu's service was accepted. The farmer wrote 4 works: Bhakta Vijaya, Santa Vijaya, Bhakta Leelamrita, Santa Leelamrita, while the latter wrote 2, Bhakta Leelamrita, Santa Katamrita, in which the lives of modern saints were described. In the chapters 31, 32, 33 of Bhakta Leelamrita and in chapter 57 of Santa Katamrita, the life and teachings of Sai Baba were very well depicted. These have been separately published in Sai Leela magazine, number 11 and 12, volume 17. The readers are advised to read these chapters. So also Sai Baba's wonderful Leelas are described by Mistress Savitribai Raghunath Tendulkar of Bandra in a small book named Sri Sai Bhajanmala. Das Ganu Maharaj has also composed various poems on Sai Baba. A devotee named Amidas Bhavani Mehta has also published some stories of Sai Baba in Gujarati. Some numbers of Sainath Prabha, a magazine published by Dakshina Bhiksha Sanstha of Shirdi, are also published. Then the question of objection comes here in that while so many works regarding Sai Baba are extant, why should this Satcharitra be written, and where is it necessary? The answer is plain and simple. The life of Sai Baba is as wide and deep as an infinite ocean, and all can dive deep into the same and take a precious gem of knowledge and bhakti and distribute them as to the aspiring people. The stories and parables of teachings of Sai Baba are very wonderful. They will give peace and happiness to the people who are afflicted with sorrows and heavily loaded with miseries of the worldly existence, and also bestow knowledge and wisdom, both in worldly and in spiritual domains. If these teachings of Sai Baba, which are so as interesting and instructive as a Vedic lore, are listened to and meditated upon, the devotees will get what they longed for, viz., union with Brahma, mystery in eightfold yoga, bliss of meditation, etc. So I thought that I should call the stories together. That would be my best upasana. These collections would be most delightful to those simple souls whose eyes were not blessed with Sai Baba's darshan. So I set about collecting Sai Baba's teachings and expressions. The outcome of boundless self-realization. It is Sai Baba who inspired me in this matter. In fact, I surrendered my ego at his feet and thought that my path was clear and that he would make me happy, quite happy here and in the next world. I could not ask Sai Baba to give me permission for this work. So I requested Mr. Madharao Deshpande alias Shyama, Baba's most intimate devotee, to speak to him for me. He pleaded for my cause and said to Sai Baba, "This Anna wishes to write your autobiography. Don't say that you are a poor fakir and there is no necessity to write it. But if you agree and help him, he will write, or rather, your grace will accomplish the work. Without your consent and blessings, nothing can be done successfully." When Sai Baba heard this request, he was moved and blessed me by giving me his Udi, sacred ash, and placed his boon bestowing hand on my head and said, "Let him make a collection of stories and experiences. Keep notes and memos. I will help him. He is the only outward instrument. I should write my autobiography myself and satisfy the wishes of my devotees. He should get rid of his ego, surrender it at my feet. He who acts like this in life, him I helped most. What of my life stories? I serve him in his house and there is left no trace of it. I myself shall enter into him and shall myself write my own life. Hearing my stories and teachings will create faith in devotees' hearts, and they will easily get self-realization and bliss. Let there be no insistence on establishing one's own view, no attempt to refute others' opinion, no discussion of pros and cons of any subject. Significant and prophetic title. The word discussion put me in my mind of my promise to explain the story of my getting the title Hemad Pant, and now I began to relate the same. I was in close, friendly terms with Kaka Sahib Dikshit and Nana Sahib Chandorkar. They pressed me to go to Shirdi and have Baba's darshan, and I promised them to do so. But something in meanwhile turned up, which prevented me from going to Shirdi. The son of friend of mine at Lonavala fell ill. My friend tried all possible means, physical and spiritual, but the fever would not abate. At length he got his guru sit by bedside of his son, but this too was of no avail. Hearing this, I thought, what was the utility of a guru if he could not save my friend's son? If the guru can't do anything for us, why should I go to Shirdi at all? Thinking this way, I postponed my Shirdi trip, but inevitable must happen, and it happened in my case as follows. Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar, who was a divisional officer, was going on tour to Besson. From Thana he came to Dadar and was waiting for a train bound for Besson. In the meanwhile, a Bandra local turned up. He sat in it and came to Bandra and sent for me and took me to task for putting off my Shirdi trip. Nana's argument for my Shirdi trip was convincing and delightful, so I decided to start from for Shirdi the same night. I packed my luggage and started for Shirdi. I planned to go to Dadar and from there catch the train for Manmad, and so I booked myself Dadar and sat in the train. While the train was to start, a Mohammedan came hastily to my compartment and seeing all my paraphernalia asked me where I was born to. I told him about my plan. He then suggested that I should go straight to Bori Bandar and not wait at Dadar, as the Manmad mail did not stop at Dadar. If this little miracle or Leela had not happened, I would have not reached Shirdi next day as settled, and many doubts would have assailed me. But this that was not to be. As fortunes favored me, I reached Shirdi the next day before 9 or 10 a.m. Mr. Bapu Saheb Kaka Dikshit was waiting for me there. This was in 1910, when there was only one place with Sateswada for lodging in pilgrimage devotees. After alighting from the Tonga, I was anxious to have darshan when a great devotee, Tatya Sahib Nulkar, returned from the masjid and said that Saibaba was at the corner of Wada and that I should first go and get preliminary darshan and then after bath see him at leisure. Hearing this, I ran and prostrated before Baba and my joy knew no bounds. I found more than what Nana Sahib Chandurkar had told me. All my senses were satisfied. I forgot my thirst and hunger. The moment I touched Baba's feet, I began at the lease of life. I felt I felt myself much obliged to those who spurred me and helped me to get the darshan, and I considered them as my real relatives and I cannot repay their debt. I only remember them and prostrate mentally before them. The peculiarity of Sai Baba's darshan, as I found it, is that by abated and gradually non-attachment or dispassion towards the worldly object grows up. It is by the merit of action of my many past births that such darshan is got, and if you see Sai Baba, all the world becomes and assumes the form of Sai Baba. Hot discussion. On the first day of my arrival in Shirdi, there was a hot discussion between me and Bala Sahib Bate regarding the necessity of Guru. I contended, why should we lose our freedom and submit to others? When we have to do our duty, why a Guru is necessary? One must try his best and save himself. What can the Guru do to a man who does nothing but sleeps indolently? Thus I pleaded free will, while Mr. Bhati took up the other side with destiny, and said, whatever is born to happen must happen. Even a great man have failed. Man proposes one way, God disposes the other way. Brush aside your cleverness, pride, or egoism won't help you. This discussion with all its pros and cons went on for an hour or so, and as usual no conclusion was arrived at. We had to stop the discussion ultimately as we were exhausted. The net result of this was I lost my peace of mind and found that unless there is a strong body consciousness or egoism there would be no discussion. Words in other words, it is egoism which breeds discussion. Then we went to the masjid with others. Baba asked Kaka Sahib Dikshit the following: what was going on in Satewada? What was the discussion about? And staring at me, Baba further added, what did this Hemad Pant say? Hearing these words, I was much surprised. The masjid was at considerable distance from Satewada, where I was staying and where the discussion was going on. How could Baba know our discussion unless he be omniscient and inner ruler of all? I began to think why Sai Baba should call me the name Hemad Pant. The word is distorted from the Hemadri Pant. This Hemadri Pant was a well-known minister of kings Mahadev and Ramadev of Devagiri of Yadav dynasty. He was very learned, good-natured, and the author of works such as Chaturvarga Chintamani, dealing with spiritual subjects, and Raja Prashasti. He invented and started new methods of accounts and was originated of Modi Marathi shorthand script. But I was quite opposite and ignoramus of a mediocre intellect, so I could not understand why the name or title was conferred upon me, but thinking seriously upon it, I thought that the title was tracked to destroy my ego, so that I always remain meek and humble. It was always a compliment. It was also a compliment paid for me for the cleverness in the discussion. Looking into the history, we think that Baba's word calling Mr. Dobholkar by name Hemad Pant was significant and prophetic, as we find that he looked after the management of Sri Sai Sansthan very intelligently, kept all accounts nicely, and was also the author of such a good work, Sri Sai Satcharitra, which deals with such important and spiritual subjects as jnana, bhakti, dispassion, self-surrender, and self-realization. About the necessity of Guru. Hemad Pant has left no note, no memo about what Baba said regarding this subject. But Kaka Sahib Dikshit has published his notes regarding this matter. Next day, after Hemad Pant's meeting with Sai Baba, Kaka Sahib went to Baba and asked, Baba, where to go? Baba said, high up. Then the man said, where is the way? Baba said, there are many ways leading there. There is one way here also. The way is difficult. The tigers and wolves in the jungle on the way. There are tigers and wolves in the jungle on the way. I, Kaka Sahib, asked Baba, but what if we take a guide with us? Baba answered, then there is no difficulty. The guide will take you straight to the destination, avoiding wolves, tigers, and ditches on the way. If there be no guide, there is danger of your being lost into the jungle and falling into ditches. Mr. Dobholkar was present on the occasion and thought that this was the answer Baba gave to the question whether Guru was necessary, and he thereupon took a hint that no discussion whether a man is free or bond is any use in spiritual matters, but on the contrary, real Paramatma is possible only as result of teachings of the Guru, as is illustrated in this chapter of the original work. In the instance of great avatars like Rama and Krishna, who had to submit themselves to their gurus Vaishistya and Sandipani respectively for getting self-realization, and that the only virtues necessary for such progress are faith and patience. Sri Sai Satcharitra Chapter 2 191 192. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Sai Baba. Sri Sachidananda Sadguru.